Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another trek through Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novel series. We're on Volume 22, Chapter 3. And what an interesting two sets of chapters. I really feel like Chapter 3 and Chapter 4, super meaty in the idea of kind of building up a possible conflict. I just feel like these two chapters are just hinting at a massive war that seems to be building up, or at least the startings of it that hopefully get squashed out. We'll have to wait and see. I'm certain eventually we'll get into some massive war that's going to build up because it's really kind of setting all the chess pieces in play. Ariel cooking something. Ariel over here cooking something. The Millis Knights over here cooking something. Really interesting little sets of chapters. Now, I will admit, and just to get that warning out there beforehand, this might be a quicker Mushoku Monday than usual, mainly because Chapter 5 looks really long, and I've been informed that there's like 3 images in it, so I'm assuming Chapter 5 is going to be possibly a really meaty segment, so I'm probably just going to do 2 chapters here, and 5 will be next week. But just want to get that warning out there beforehand. I know that some people don't like shorter Mushoku Mondays, but I just want to pace things properly, and that's a bit much for me to go into a really long 3rd chapter. But as per usual, greatly appreciate you guys' support. Thank you so much for dropping by for the premiere. Hope you're doing well, chat. Thank you again for your kind words. Everybody that supports the channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that stuff. It means a great deal to me. I thank you guys so much. Last week, Orsid Cultus had a membership of 9 months at this point. Thank you for the long time support. Fresco came in with a big super. Thank you so much, Fresco, for your support. Rose Moist with a membership, and Inferno Torch with another super. Thank you again so much, you guys. It means so much to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't say enough. I don't think I really have much to cover from the previous Mushoku Monday. It was pretty straightforward. I think the only thing that was a little bit odd was my discussion about calling Zenith's ability a curse rather than a blessing. I didn't really think that I'd get that much pushback. There's a couple people saying things like, well, the Blessed Child said not to reveal it, and it's like, well, he just revealed it. He literally told everybody in the house what the ability is. I think the idea there and the assumption is, and it's kind of odd that he doesn't actually specifically say it, but the odd thing is that he doesn't tell them, hey, I found out what's going on with Zenith. It's this thing. Don't tell anybody. Because really the idea of what the Blessed Child's saying there, and Reese is picking up on it, don't tell anybody what she could do. It's really just what she can do. You don't want anybody to know because they're going to want her and to use her. Now, the question mark's going to become is, how can they use her? Really, how can they use her? If she can read minds, great. How do you get that information to yourself? Question mark. Now, especially in Millis, with the Blessed Child there, they're going to want her because then they can use them together to find out information. But anywhere else, it's like, yes, she can read minds. How do you know? Oh, well, the Blessed Child in Millis told us, so she's useless to us. But no, what the Blessed Child there, for me, what the Blessed Child there is saying is don't tell anybody what her ability is because people are going to want her. That's really dangerous. She's very dangerous. And yes, there could be a lot of people that just want to kill her just to shut her up, but the possibility that she could be used against them. That kind of stuff. Now, when it comes to the whole idea of whether to call it a Blessed Child or a Cursed Child, yes, we've already established before that they're both the same. It's some sort of instability in the mana itself that creates a person being a Blessed Child or a Cursed Child, and people just label it what they want to label it, but they're all the same. So in the instance with this, calling it a Cursed Child doesn't make any sense just because it's beneficial. Now, if it was something that wasn't beneficial, it was something that was a negative impact upon Zenith, that makes sense. Like Ellen Lease, yes, a lot of people would call that a blessing. Ellen Lease would probably call it a blessing, but most people would call it a curse because of what it requires. But you can also say it's a blessing because of what it's producing. It's producing these gems that are worth a lot of money. It's all in what it's actually labeled. Again, my whole point in that segment was really just to say, one, yes, it's technically a benefit. It is something that would be beneficial to people or a society to acquire that. It would be a benefit for them to have that ability. Just like with the Blessed Child, it's a benefit to them because they're able to use her against something else. Whereas you would think that probably to her, it's not a blessing. The Blessed Child probably doesn't see it as a blessing to her life. Now, she could see it a blessing as something that could be useful to her, but it's that idea of a usefulness. Again, my whole point with Rudius in that room is to call it a blessing, one, because it's a benefit to him, but two, because it sounds better. It's just a lot more positive of a thing. It doesn't really matter what the outside world thinks what it is, a positive or negative. Rudius is keeping it to that room. So why would he not present it to that room as a benefit, a blessing? That's the oddity there. That's really the oddity there. But anyhow, that aside, I don't mind the disagreement there. I just found it really fascinating. I'm like, well, I wasn't really expecting a pushback from that. It just makes perfect sense to me that the ability seems beneficial, so it should be called a blessing. the blessed child called it a blessing. It doesn't matter what society thinks it is or a blessing or negative, because it's in that household and it's not supposed to leave that household. But additionally, it would just sound better to them that she's not cursed, she's blessed. But who knows? Anyhow, let us get into Chapter 3, the politics of the King Dragon Realm. I don't remember there was anything in Chapter 3 that was super fascinating, but I have some interesting theories on Chapter 4, that's for darn sure, but we'll get into that when we get into it. You can't stop a bully from bullying a kid just by beating them up. Another bully will take its place where the other one left off. How do you stop it instead? First off, why were they bullying them? Do bullies need a reason? Was there something the victim did to lead up to it? That does happen. Rudius assumed that was the case for himself. So he assumes that's what the King Dragon Realm might be dealing with. Benedict might be getting bullied due to an unlucky fact that she had a demon blood, and Rudius wasn't going to stand for it if that was the case. He'd beat the crap out of the bully. But what if there was more to it? Maybe something causing stress to the bully, and they took it out on the kid. If that was the case, he might resolve the issues by taking out the cause of the stress. In addition, he'd point out the downsides to the bullying. Very interesting, Rudius is using his own experiences to kind of figure this out, because that is the difficulty that comes with bullying, is like there is different reasons for why bullying is happening. It's like all bullying bad, obviously, but there's like, they're trying to figure out what's causing the bullying, because yes, simply just beating them up, the next person's going to step up in line. If there's that one kid in class that keeps kind of being like the brown noser to the teacher, and you beat up the one bully that's bullying the brown noser, then the next kid's just going to step up, because it's just like everybody is finding the brown noser to be annoying. And Rudius right here is kind of going, yeah, I think this is kind of a case for myself where in some cases it's the actual victim themselves of the bullying that did something to trigger it. He assumes, again, the situation that he attributes it to himself is when he was speaking up in that line. He spoke up in that one situation. He stood out there. He spoke up against something, and target on him. Being target on me. Again, not to say that he is... It's almost as if Rudius himself is finding that he did something wrong there. I shouldn't have done that. And I think it's really just an aspect of him feeling like, crap, I really wish I didn't, just because that caused me so much grief. Not so much that I did something wrong, but it's more of a fact that if I could do it again, would I do it? And in a lot of cases, probably not, because all that suffering that came after it, I wish I could have avoided that. So it is actually interesting to kind of look at the actual root of the problem rather than kind of just assuming, well, just smash this one thing and it'll all go away. No, in a lot of cases, it's going to get passed on to the next person. And really what Rudius is doing here is going, okay, Benedict right now is the bully. She's the victim right now. What's causing that? Well, I could just destroy anybody that is currently sending assassins to her, but that might not fix the issue because the root of the problem might still be there. And he's also looking at, okay, well, then somebody might be causing them to have to push to try to harass Benedict. Okay, well, I can figure out what that is. Is it stress? Is something pushing upon them to causing this? Okay, let's just kind of alleviate that, and maybe they'll just leave her alone. But additionally, also point out that don't bully Benedict. I'm the right hand of the dragon god. Stop bullying my disciple or something. Surprised he didn't offer immediately the idea of like, well, do like with Blessed Child. Just make her a follower of Orsted. To get some info on the politics of the kingdom, Randolph pointed Rudius to Shagall in the training grounds. Okay, so Shagall's alive. I find that funny. Like in the last Mushoku Monday, I'm like, yeah, there's a chance that Shagall might be dead. Orsted had told Rudius about Shagall Gargantus before. He was one of the top dogs, the general paramount of the King Dragon Realm. But he didn't defend the king, apparently. Maybe he was too fast. Orsted was too fast. He was quarter elf and had a characteristically rough way of speaking. But he was decisive, a man of action, and had a moniker of the Generalissimo. He was also one who recruited Randolph. Despite the death god having no interest at all, the guy certainly had an eye for talent. The chances that he was a disciple of the man god was low right now. But if the King Dragon Realm ever seemed in danger of falling, those odds would skyrocket. Yes, obviously acknowledging the idea if there was some sort of danger coming to the King Dragon Realm, the man god calling him up. Hey, do me a favor, and I'll protect you. They're an energetic bunch. Sure are. Zenobia and Rudius stood in the training grounds with Randolph's letter of introduction. Due to not having an appointment, they'd have to wait for the training to complete. Rudius had left Edis to guard Aisha and Julie elsewhere. Okay, alleviate that problem. Okay, so Randolph's good. So Edis, go protect the cute girls. The training grounds were oval in shape and the size of a baseball pitch. Shagall sat where he could see the soldiers, in teams of 6, fight one another. Their strategy dictated by their leader's orders. He held these drills regularly to improve the skills of his officers. This is already it's already triggering my mind. It was so fascinating getting into the difference of like what each nation does for their training. Because yes, it puts a big magnifying glass on Asura. Ruiz wasn't sure if it was because these officers were more suited for commanding armies, but individually, they weren't noteworthy combatants. The soldiers crept to the training grounds, hunted their enemies by overcoming obstacles, before staging a fake attack while pinning down their enemy.
Oh, they're reenacting the Battle of Zasharia.
You can tell?
I've studied it. The man there, he's the right flank. That was an army of water magicians who, unbeknownst to the enemy, were swapped out for fire magicians. All the enemy's counter spells went awry, and they won a crushing victory. A classic bait-and-switch strategy.
Wow. Once pointed out, Roos realized they swapped out their front and rear teams. They were fighting with real magic and swords, but apparently had similar protections that were used at the University of Magic. Their wounds were healed right away. They must have set rules due to men leaving the field upon taking certain hits. Roos assumed the cheers of victory meant they were done for the day. While he stood up, Zenova said the contrary. Another team entered the ring, and Shagal showed no sign of moving. While waiting around was pleasant, Rudis didn't want to waste time. He was also worried they were watching national secrets, despite no one getting mad at them. It's like they're sitting there just watching how they're doing their training, and it's like, this is bad, isn't it? This is kind of bad. I need to make a voice for this guy. Hey, is this seat taken? I'm just going for like some extremely pompous dude. I'm just going for some extremely pompous dude. Hey, is this seat taken? A man in his early 40s, with dark blonde hair and patchy stubble, sat next to Rudius. He had an air of someone who'd been a bit of a flop back in the day, but was now making efforts to pull himself together. That seems very specific. This guy apparently is just stepping up. Maybe something really important just happened here recently, and he's got to step it up. He was familiar to Rudius, but he couldn't place where. Orcidpedia was packed with information, but no pictures. A name was needed to work out who anyone was. I'm just more surprised that Rudius can remember so many names. Now, granted, there's probably more focus on family names or whatever, but every time Rudius is going to a location, he's getting a rundown from Orcid about like all the important information. So it's like, I couldn't keep that information straight. I'd be sitting there with like a massive notepad going, okay, this is this person. Okay, good. Being in the palace, he was nobility or royalty, minimum a knight. He had no bodyguards or a sword, so he was probably a noble that wasn't very important. Be my guest, I don't own it. Fearing insulting someone who should be recognized, Reese decided to talk to him before asking his name.
I'll join you then. It's a good exercise, right?
Indeed, I admit, I don't understand it very well.
That's the King Dragon Realm's signature training methodology.
Surely all countries use mock battles. Reese knew that was pretty routine in the Ostra Kingdom, and theirs were slightly more complex, with commanding officers drilling the soldiers with chessboard-style setups.
You think so?
What? Is there something you do differently than everyone else?
There is. Take that man who's playing the general of the Western Army, for example. He's the eldest son of a provincial noble. Under ordinary circumstances, a man of his rank couldn't dream of rising to such station. And if he did, it'd only be to defend his own land, with his own soldiers.
Huh. Yet, here he's playing general.
They have all the officers try assignments, taking turns.
I think it's Roswell. I've been recently rewatching ReZero, so it's like Roswell's voice is in my head. That's what it is.
Subaru. What do you like about this Subaru?
Anyways, a player rotation. It was the same philosophy as putting players in position where they didn't normally play. That way, they can get the hang of fundamentals, while also learning how to play the role efficiently. It made sense to Rudius. Understanding how position works, in theory, was different from doing it for reals. Yeah, I do like this idea. I think this is really good because, yes, you can have people that normally don't get a chance to prove themselves. They're able to prove themselves. It takes a lot longer, and you're going to be wasting a lot of time because you have a lot of people to go through, possibly, but it is still like the idea of discovering real talent and whatnot at the same time of pushing people forward that have a lot of that talent. It's putting the nation's safety and combat ability above what they're going to get into in a minute here, status. Additionally, there's a side benefit to this, is putting people in positions that they're not normally used to, for the sake of them understanding the importance and how it functions so they can communicate with it. I did this a lot in my previous jobs when I was kind of heading certain people or working alongside people for a team, is this idea of forcing people to do different positions just so they know how it functions. Simply to know how it functions, that way they can communicate better to the person that normally works in that station to get that information done quickly. So if they know everything that that station's supposed to do with their information, they'll know how to format it, basically. It's actually very beneficial. We used to do this a lot. I see. That must allow for everyone to find out a role they're best suited for.
Precisely. And not only that, but you can use it to uncover talent, like him.
The Western Army was dominating the Eastern Army before their eyes. The eldest son of a provincial noble was a damn good commander. This was hardly Rudius' expertise, but he could tell that his orders were precise and had no slack. His fighting style was so steadfast and methodical. In fact, in this country, assignments aren't based on social rank. Oh? So even a provincial noble had a shot at being a general. Hunting down great talent and not using it was a waste of time, to be fair. It was common sense to use that talent. Unfortunately, a lot of feudal societies were lacking in that regard. I bet the Asura Kingdom doesn't do that, eh? I doubt it, though I'm hardly an expert. A while back, Ariel let Rudius watch the Asuran army run through some practice maneuvers, while Luke pointed out different aspects of it. It turned out that in the Asura Kingdom, all assignments were determined by rank and nobility. Yeah, see, this makes sense, but at the same time, it's stupid. It makes sense to a society, but it's stupid. Why I say it makes sense is because typically with different kind of statuses of nobility, they're going to have their own men as well. Like if you are a noble that is heading a certain region, you're going to have your own men that you're commanding as well. So you're kind of bringing something to the fray. But when it comes to like an overall army or whatever that's not specific to your land or whatever, I think it's kind of dumb in that regard because, again, you're not using talent. You're just sending, Billy's son over there because Billy is really, really powerful when it comes to status. Just because one noble is in the position they are because they have lots of wealth, because they're really good at, I don't know, maybe their fields are very fruitful or whatever, doesn't mean they're good at commanding an army. A Boreas Rayrat, for example, would be placed in front of the commander's division. The positions were based on assignments drawn up by the commander in the Laplace War. Very interesting. They've been passed down as is ever since. Formation's views reflected values of that period, dragged unchanged into the present day. Visually impressive and flashy as they were, they lacked any practical value. Luke lamented that the sad state of affairs was due to lack of major clashes since the Laplace War. This is cool. I know it's kind of dumb, but this is actually very, very fascinating because, yes, I could see way back then during the Laplace War, there was probably a commander that drew it up like that. Like, we need to make sure that these high-ranking nobles led the armies. And that could be a lot based on sort of the position they were in. What dire straits they were in. They were probably having to bolster the army with those key figures. And again, that goes back to what I was saying before. It's probably a lot was maybe high-ranking nobles of certain areas that were leading people. And to get them on the battlefield, they maybe need to have those high-ranking nobles step out on that battlefield with them and command them to kind of ensure that push, that desire to fight. Like they're fighting along with me. The lord of our land is fighting with me. That's a lot to do with it. But it's interesting to see that has been passed down ever since then. And yes, it never changed because why change it? There's no pressing desire to fight. Now, yes, as we're going to get into in a minute, it does feel like a lot of things are brewing up right now and they need to change this stuff quick, but it's still fascinating. The King Dragon Realm, meanwhile, could assign all of its commanders to the roles that best suited them. That wouldn't fly in the Asura Kingdom. While Luke said that he wanted to improve things, old traditions took a long time to change. Yep. There's going to be a lot of pushback. Now, very, very interesting right here. And this is starting to get into something they brought up at this point, Volume 4? I think it was like 3 or 4, like really early, like right after the displacement incident. The moment they introduced Ariel, what were they saying? What was Derek Redbat's whole thing? This nation is asleep. We are indulging. We have the power, but that means that we're getting soft, we're getting weak, and we're getting lazy. Meanwhile, everybody else is building up. Right here. They're building up. And yes, we were already indicating that something was coming way back here when we had the first meeting of the Death God. Shagall went to him saying, I need you. We need you, dude. It was indicating that something was brewing up. And finally, it seems like things are about to go down. So Luke needs to speed up. Are you here studying our training methodology? The man asked with a sharp gleam in his eyes, like he was searching for something. Did he suspect that Rudius was a spy? It was glaringly obvious that Rudius wasn't from the King Dragon Realm, so it was no surprise. But Rudius had made a lot of comparisons with the Asura Kingdom without thinking. Yeah, it was a little bit of a slip-up. No, my friend's nephew's from here.
My name is Inoba.
Oh, I should have said earlier. I'm V.O. Pompadour. Pompadour? Pompadour? His name is Pompadour? I mean, when I think Pompadour, obviously I think of Japan, like crazy pompadours, but I guess Pompadour's been around for a long time. It's not like Japan made up Pompadour, I think. Pompadour was a name that Orsted had mentioned. They were one of the noble houses of the King Dragon Realm, a distinguished line of warriors who even appeared in the epic of the North God. If Rudius recalled correctly, they were closely related to the royal family, and possibly about the king's grandmother being a Pompadour. It was a good thing that Rudius didn't say anything rude. This guy was basically royalty. The likelihood of Pompadours being disciples of the man god was about a C rank, lowest of the lower middle. A lord of the house of Pompadour. Please excuse my ignorance. Not at all. What is your name, by the way? My most sincere apologies. I am Breeze Greyrack. I'm employed as a representative of Orsted, the Dragon God, second of the 7 great powers.
The Dragon God, eh? I've reeled in a big fish. And you, Sir Zenoba, are you a follower of the Dragon God? Indeed, though I am, of little importance.
He's only saying that. He's very powerful.
Strength is all I have to offer, I'm afraid.
He wasn't talking about physical power. The Zenoba's store had grown a lot. Money is power.
Two such esteemed as...
I can't say esteem with his voice. By gosh.
Two such esteemed individuals. What brings you to the King Dragon Realm?
Well, this is a tough situation to explain to someone not involved. This guy could be one of Little Pax's would-be assassins, so it would be wise not to reveal too much. His nephew, was in a bit of a tight spot, so we came to help him out.
Is that so?
Then we got here, and we found there was some political trouble going on, so we were wondering what we could do to pitch in. We thought we should get a handle on the current events, and to do that, we were told to come here and talk with General Shagall.
You have connections to General Shagall? This nephew of yours must be someone quite important.
Oh no, the General just has lots of friends. Shagall was known as one of the people who'd shaped the King Dragon Realm into the powerful nation that it was today. Yeah, they mentioned that before. Orson said that he gathered up talent from the ranks of those who had fallen out of favor with them to build prosperity and military dominance. The training on the field was probably his invention as well. He was popular, had connections everywhere, his circle was wide, and no one knew its scope. So claiming that they knew him wasn't fishy. Yeah, again, this is a lot of stuff that they kind of hinted at with the first meet of the Death God. This idea that he was kind of putting something really incredible together, that he kind of built them up. And yeah, so I can assume that a lot of the stuff about, utilizing people no matter what their rank was in nobility is part of that step. Kind of unfortunate that we haven't met him yet, though. Unfortunately, General Shagall is very busy, so we're taking the liberty of waiting for him here.
Oh, I see.
Vio looked pensive for a moment, then nodded.
A friend's nephew is no better than a stranger in most people's eyes. It is admirable of you to come to his aid.
His skeptical vibes became replaced by genial warmth. The friendliness was sudden, but maybe he's satisfied now that he worked out what the strangers were doing.
No, I should warn you. I think today General Shagall means keep going with the drills until sundown.
You don't say. That means another 5 hours or so. Now reading this out, reading at this point, I kind of wonder if this is all like a man god thing. This is a total, yes, man god rent-free in Andrew's head moment right here, but it does seem convenient that Rudius, by the time they get back, Shagall's done. It kind of makes me think that not that Vio is a disciple. I mean, he could be a disciple, but simply some way that man god just went into one dream at one time and said, I know somebody you're going to want to meet. Go to the training grounds this time and you'll meet somebody. That's all he said. And then when they arrive here, the man god knew that Vio's going to come here and they're going to hit it off and that Vio will keep him busy. Simply that.
How about you talk with me? I might not look it, but I'm fairly knowledgeable about this country's affairs. There are some things I can't go into, of course, but I can tell you about the current situation if that'll help.
Would that be all right? We just wanted to hear Shagall's perspective. It would be a good use of time.
Our meeting was kismet, I'm sure. Only, if we were going to talk, this place is, well, shall we go somewhere else to talk more freely?
Rudius and Zenoba accompanied Vio to his villa. There, they were sat down to have some tea and snacks. The maid was well stacked and gave Rudius a pleasant sight. After sipping tea for a while, they were introduced to a man named Spinach. He had an odd name. The man was well known for his exceptional skill in swordsmanship. It was then that Vio spoke up with a grin.
No, the man god sends his regards.
Rudius realized that he'd been poisoned, unable to move his body. It was all a trap by the man god. No, nothing that exciting. Vio took them to the restaurant a little away from the palace. I made up that whole bit. It said something effective like, it turned out that Vio was a man god's disciple. No, not that excited. So I decided to make a little scenario. Everybody, there's a few people that read along with me, so they're like going, what the hell, where's this at? Which page is Anders on? This must be version 13 that they made of this particular volume. Rudius tried to stay on his guard, but even he could admit that it was too obvious to be a trap. But that's usually the worst, Rudius. That's usually the worst. Vio talked a lot in the carriage. Sightseeing spots, local legends. He was a seasoned tour guide. The restaurant they went to served traditional King Dragon Realm cooking. The chef was incredible. But the recent fad in the King Dragon Realm was for cutting-edge culinary innovation, so he hadn't secured a place in the palace. Very interesting little tidbit there. The idea that it seemed like the fad right now is to kind of keep pushing it, and he's kind of keeping to something that's traditional. Which would make sense why Vio would take him there. If he wants to show off the greatness of the King Dragon Realm, he's going to give them something that's more traditional rather than something that is newly invented. While Rudius wasn't enough of Gorman to follow Vio's patter, his pride for every topic shown. He definitely had an intense love for his country, but nothing he spoke of was what Rudius needed.
Now, did you find the King Dragon Realm's famed cooking?
It was very good. I didn't give it credit until now, I admit. Last time I came here, I wasn't blown away by what I ate. I kind of wonder here. This is kind of one of those things that kind of just jumps out at me now. Is Rudius right here just being nice just for the conversation, but he doesn't actually like it? Has Rudius's taste in things of this world changed? Because yes, when he first came through here, he hated everything. Like, he was excited when he came through here because they had rice. And yes, there was a lot of things that felt like, there were things that was from his homeland. It was from Japan. But none of it tasted any good. Like, none of it was cooked right. It didn't have the right stuff that was actually put into it. The cooking ingredients or the oil, whatever they used. Could it be that Reus's taste is kind of more in line with this world now? Is it that he's finally getting something cooked by somebody that's actually good at cooking in the King Dragon realm? Whereas before, again, it was it was the death god, or it was just some random person on the side of the street or whatever, or just some rundown restaurant because he was saving money? Or is that King Dragon realm has started to change a lot of its flavors and they're getting to something better? But again, this guy is traditional. Not all chefs are equal ability. All right, here he's kind of mentioning the idea that this guy is exceptional. You're always going to strike out sometimes. This place rocked, though. The King Dragon realm's cuisine revolved around fruits and vegetables. It was simple, but nutritious. Healthy conscious foods were a bit bland, but this was outstanding. Again, a rare moment where Reus really likes the food. Was there anything else you want to ask about? Now that you ask, could you, tell us about the political situation? You want to know about politics? Not national secrets or anything. Random rumors or gossip would do. All right, let's see. First of all, the King Dragon realm is a bit in turmoil at the moment. That started when the former king passed away. Passed away is a good way to put it. He just passed away, a little bit of illness. He had a cough. He had a bad cough. Yes, I did hear about it. May he rest in peace. I think Reus is one of the first people to learn about it. Reus is one of the first people to learn about it. And after that, one of the King Dragon realm's vassal states was invaded. Not just by one nation, but 3 different countries that came together for an attack. It appears to have been orchestrated in the conflict zone to the north. They aren't powerful nations, but 3 nations at once. Makes for a thunderous headache. As a matter of course, the King Dragon realm went to the aid of its vassal state. But you see, there's something off about how these 3 countries are behaving in the aftermath. Off in what way?
They won't retreat. After our reinforcements and provisions arrived, they defeated the enemy in battle. They pushed them back to the border. But now they're fighting back hard. There had been attempts to negotiate peace behind the scenes, but they play deaf to every envoy we send.
Perhaps they think that if their invasion succeeds, that they can at least get some territory out of it.
Considering the discrepancy in their power compared to the King Dragon realm, it should be obvious how impossible that is. Even if we are preoccupied with our own problems, and yet...
Reus thought that even if one of the 3 countries did invade one of the King Dragon realm's vassal states and occupy a chunk of their domains, the King Dragon realm, the heavy hitter here, was hardly going to take it lying down. They'd join the war in earnest, and depending on the circumstances, it was perfectly within their power to wipe out the invaders altogether. Very interesting. I mean, again, we're going to get into exactly what's causing this later on, but it's still kind of a massive question mark here of why would they be so inclined to do this? They're sitting here pretty much attacking the vassal states. And yes, they're vassal states. So it's not as if the King Dragon realm themselves, it's like an attack upon them. It does look bad upon them. Yes, it is within the benefit of the King Dragon realm to protect and aid that vassal state. Again, the idea here, and a lot that this has to do with, is simply the idea of having a buffer. These vassal states really do create a buffer between the King Dragon realm and a lot of conflict that's going on. And that's the idea there. Touch Ch3-4 and you're going to get some of us. It's not like it's going to hurt the King Dragon realm to have them fall, but it is going to be a negative impact upon them. Again, it makes them look bad, their leadership look bad, but additionally the idea of losing that buffer, losing that defensive shield. The more these other countries start creeping up, the closer and closer and more grip they have upon the King Dragon realm. But why keep doing it when it seems like if they were to take over Ch3-4, the King Dragon realm could just go in there and beat the crap out of him? Why even bother? All 3 of these countries?
Yes, all 3.
That was odd. If it was a simple case of striking at the King Dragon realm while they were weakened, that would make sense. But Reus couldn't understand why they would be fighting this hard after the King Dragon realm got back on its feet. If this had been an outcome they wanted, they could just have invaded altogether. Something smells off.
Exactly. There's also the possibility that if Ch3-4 joins them, seeking independence, they might conquer one of our vassal states.
Right. That's an interesting thing. And I could totally probably see that happening. If the current new leadership of Ch3-4, especially that general that's backing the prince, I can see him not being too happy with the King Dragon realm if he knows about what happened there, that they empowered Pax, which makes sense they would think that. The biggest names amongst the King Dragon realm's vassal states were Ch3-4, Sanakia Kingdom, and Kika Kingdom, but there were a number of other smaller nations as well. Their domains were small, and their nation's influence limited. They were the kind of countries that barely avoided being consumed by other countries by dint of the King Dragon realm's patronage. It was very possible for such countries to be wiped out. If Ch3-4 had added his forces to the attack, while they were withstanding an assault from 3 other nations, it would be a serious bloodbath. Reus could see how some had ended up on the side of either killing Pax or handing him over to try to head off potential invasion from Ch3-4. Yeah, again, that's all kind of making sense now. Not that it didn't make sense before, but now it kind of adds an extra little kind of layer on top of it. Vio mentioned some other political aspects of the King Dragon realm. Most of it was small talk, not seeming to relate to little packs, but Reese would look into them later. Gosh, look at the time. I'm afraid to have another engagement after this, so I'll have to take my leave of you here. Thank you very much for your time today. Not at all. The pleasure is mine. It's not every day that I get a chance to boast about my country. I greatly enjoyed myself. After Vio left, Ruius and Zenova returned to the training grounds. However, Shagal had already gone home. Again, it's like, convenient. Oh, I have another thing to do. I've held you long enough. Bad timing, but there was nothing they could do about it. Heading back to their lodgings, they met up with Edis and the others to have a meeting. From what I hear, it seems like Millis Knight Orders are throwing their weight around in these parts. It seemed that a lot of knights in blue armor, emblazoned with Millis insignias, were loitering around. When Aisha asked around about them, she heard they were known for tyrannical behavior. They refused to pay for their mills, got into fights with adventurers, and quarreled with the guilds. Despite this, it seemed like there was a silent agreement between them and the guards of the King Dragon realm. Without the guards intervening, it was causing tension with the citizens. It goes without saying that having them around would make selling reserved figurines impossible. They hated demons after all. Aisha also mentioned that people were dissatisfied about rising prices of imported goods and taxes. This was intriguing. It's like, we have all this stuff that's kind of building up about the whole, like, invading nations and the harassing of these other countries and whatnot, and Chiron, the possibility of them, flipping on the King Dragon realm and all this vassal state stuff. And then suddenly over here, it's like Aisha reports, hey, by the way, there's a bunch of Mills people around causing problems, and the guards aren't doing anything. Question mark? Why aren't the guards doing anything? That's a massive question mark. Now, yes, we've established before that Millis kind of has people in a lot of places. They're getting around in places. But actually having military forces from another country within your borders causing problems with your people, that's a massive question mark. That leads me to, there's a lot of possibilities here. I mean, it could simply be that some group within Millis is trying to cause problems in the King Dragon realms while it's having its problems right now. Again, the King Dragon realm right now is in turmoil. Like, it's trying to recover itself. It got a massive, yes, it got a donut, but it got a massive gut punch. Like, the kingdom itself got a massive gut punch, and it's trying to catch its breath. It's like the wind got knocked out of it. It's trying to get back on its feet. So this is a perfect time for them to come around and start poking at it and going, ha, 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 and causing problems. Don't let him get back up. Every now and then kind of give him a nudge so that he falls back over before he gets back on his feet. So it could be something in Millis where they're trying to cause problems within the nations and just kind of poke the bear while it's down, possibly to keep it from getting back on its feet, or to cause a civil war. It could just be Millis Knight Orders people being Millis Knight Orders. That, as simple as that. They are a bunch of tyrannical idiots. They're just being who they are. But there is another side of me that kind of wonders, are they being allowed to do what they do by somebody within the King Dragon realm itself? Somebody that doesn't like the new leadership that was chosen for it, or possibly somebody that is trying to take over, and they're using Millis to their benefit. Maybe they possibly have ties in with Millis, and they're like, hey, help me out, take over this place, and it's yours. Let me head it, but it'll be under your branch. There's a possibility here that Millis is finally deciding that they want to expand that direction. It's a long distance to expand, and it's overseas and whatnot, but who knows? Again, there's a lot of possibilities here that could be sparking a very big war. Upon Aisha presenting a possible office location, Ruiz prioritized the setup of the teleportation circle and contact tablet. He'd report back to Orsted, then do some digging into what was behind it all. It didn't sound like the Man God's plot, and this future had been altered due to Ruiz's involvement. Orsted may not know its new direction, but he had to be kept in the loop. Zenobia offered to take Benedict and the little prince and flee the land, but Ruiz wanted to see if they could work something out. The Knights of Millis could be handled, and he had a little theory on what was going on with the 3 invading countries. That little mastermind, that devious little mastermind. Chapter 4, The Naughtiest Kid. Is a little naughty kid. A few days later, Reese went to the kingdom of Asra. When he asked Orsted about the situation in the King Dragon realm, he coughed up the name of the culprit very quickly. Reese knew where it was going, but it was based on a report that came to Orsted before. To get to the mastermind, Reese turned to Luke, who was a bit like the prime minister of the kingdom. Luke quickly pointed Rudius to where he needed to go. Connections do come in handy once in a while. Well, Luke was his cousin, so it was like a big brother helping him out. When Reese said that to Luke, he blushed a tiny bit. Aw, Luke like being a big brother. I don't know, Reese is like taking it in the direction of like yaoi. I'm like, all right, chill, Rudius. I don't think Luke's into you. I mean, Could be. I mean, he could swing both ways. The mastermind was heavily guarded, but Luke gave him a travel permit. Arriving at the heart of the Ostra Palace, he found the mastermind at the Queen's chambers. I knew where this was going. I knew where this was going. In front of the door of the chambers stood a huge man. He wore sparkly gold armor and had a battle axe planted before himself. He had to be twice as broad as Rudius, but he wasn't fat. By the way he held himself, he was probably padded by thick muscle. Well, hello there. Hope you don't mind if I just pop in. Rudius slipped by and head towards the chamber, but the man stomped over and planted himself in his way. Shifting right, he moved right. Left, he moved left. So, do you think you could let me in?
No one tell me about you.
Rudius flashed his permit, which was just the Austrian coat of arms, but he wasn't having it. Rudius didn't recognize the guy from previous visit, so he had to be new. Look, new guy, you better get out of the way, you're gonna piss me off. I got permission to be here, alright?
No, at night. Now only Lord Luke, Lady Sylphie, or Lady Sylphie's husband go in.
So he was taught to behave. Very impressive. Only problem is that he didn't know what Rudius looked like. Is that right? I should have said, so sorry, I'm Sylphie's husband. My name is Rudius Greyrat. You can go ahead and let me...
No proof.
Proof? How is he supposed to prove it? Photo of Sylphie and him having smoochy time? There was no photos in this world. Maybe he can bring Lucy as a manifestation of their love? He didn't bring her, though. All he had in his pocket was a holy idol. He still keeps that in his pocket. Even till volume 22, he still keeps her Ponzu in his pocket. That is one of those funny things about, like, a lot of this, like, feedback videos that I'm going through, like these reviews and whatnot, and how many people get all mad because he's got Roxy's Ponzu. And I'm like, if only you knew that he still has it in volume 22 in his pocket, you'd be so mad. Proof? As Rudius hesitated, the big guy pointed his battle axe at him.
You suspicious.
Whoa, hold up. I'm sorry, okay? So just hold on for 5 seconds. And let's stay calm and talk about this like gentlemen. The axe looked like it weighed 50 kilos. He could just drop it and let gravity do the work. Rudius did have magic armor on, so it probably wouldn't one-shot him. Still, he didn't want to fight if he could help it. Rudius was Ariel's boss, and this was one of her lackeys. So, no need to fight.
I am doorkeeper. You do not pass.
Luke could sort things out, but he looked kind of busy. Can I do whatever else I want to do as long as I don't pass you? He looked confused, but then grunted in assent.
Yes.
Hey, Ariel, come out and play. Ariel! The doorkeeper started, looking too confused to act. Not long after, the door opened. Out came a maid Rudius knew well, Ariel's lady-in-waiting, but he couldn't recall her name. She apparently started at the same time as Lilia. Yeah, that's going way back there. Lord Rudius, whatever's the matter? I came to request an audience with Her Majesty, Queen Ariel, but this gentleman is reluctant to let me in. Her eyes narrowed in anger. My apologies. Doga, the gentleman is permitted. Let him through at once.
No one tell me. He has weapon. At night. Can't do it.
Doga, it's Sir Rudius. Come now. I know you were told that you could let him through at any time.
No proof.
I'm telling you. This guy was tough nut to crack, but probably well suited to guard the Queen's room. He didn't seem the type to be turned by gold or anything. Very true. Well, it's one of those like danger zone areas where it's like the guy seems like not all there. I mean, he could be very, very smart. It's not being shown in the situation. It's not like this is a situation where he's going to take like some mathematical equations here or something like that. He could just be very focused on his role. This is what I was told. I don't see any proof. You're telling me to let him through, but that's not proof enough that he's somebody that should be let through. It really is somebody of like, if Ariel doesn't say it, I'm not listening, because this lady in waiting could be trying to trick me. I was told don't do this unless this, and I don't know if he fits this criteria. But there's also the danger of like him being so simple-minded, he might just do something crazy. Like Ariel goes to go to their bedchambers, and he's so kind of out of it that he doesn't realize it's Ariel. No, only these people pass, but I'm Ariel. Dead. Doga. A voice that charmed everyone who heard it came from behind the door. Doga visibly jumped. That gentleman is Sylphie's husband. You are to let him pass at any time. Ariel sounded a little ticked off, which made the doorkeeper twitch again. He hurried away from the door, went down on one knee, grunting differentially. They good? He could pass? Reese wondered. He gingerly, on his tippy toes, crept inside, never taking his eyes off the battle axe. Good. All right. Ariel looked like she just got out of the bath and changed into something casual. Her lady-in-waiting was combing her hair. Welcome, Lord Rudius. I must say, it's rather indelicate to impose yourself upon an unmarried woman in the middle of the night like this, don't you think? True. Sorry about that. It was kind of urgent. Well, this is a matter between you and me after all. Don't worry. I'll be sure to keep what commences between us a secret from Sylphie. Hey, There's no need for secrets. Nothing's going to happen. And besides, I'm the one who reports back to Sylphie. Really? How disappointing. I miss their banter. I miss their kind of banter. I mean, that's kind of like Aisha. Whenever Aisha kind of disappears for a while. Aisha or Ariel or Elise with Rudius. I think their chemistry with Rudius are just so fantastic. Again, it's always somebody that's willing to throw back as much perviness as that he can't take. Like, Rudius is a perv, but these are people that kind of throw it back at him tenfold. Somebody that can actually throw off Rudius really is what it is. She came back to this joke from time to time. It was to check whether he'd cheat and betray Sylphie. Maybe it was because she just came out of the bath, but she smelled really good. Oh no. He's gonna lose already. He's already feeling it like crap. That's right. I haven't been able to do that in a while. I don't know if I can do it no more. He never felt that way about Ariel before. She always presented herself so flawlessly. But something about her now seemed more human. That must have been it. Roos fought off the thought, taking a big sniff of his idol to clear his head. So about the business, apparently his vow of chastity had left him with some pent-up energy. I see you're a man of taste, Sir Rudius. Those pantsus, you're a man of taste, I see. This isn't my taste, it's my faith. Now, can we maybe clear out the others from here? Not that I'm going to do anything, I just don't want people to see. Now you're going to make more misunderstandings, dude. Ariel didn't respond, merely clapped her hands. You may go. Okay, so, Ariel. Yes? The one behind it all is you, right? Yes, that is correct. Though, you have to be more specific. You could be talking about a lot of things. Do you happen to have proof that I am guilty of whatever it is that you claim? There's no point in playing dumb. I've already got all the evidence I need. Roos was getting into character. Right away, the door banged open. Whirling around, he found Doga standing there, axe in hand. He immediately made a beeline to Rudius, raising his axe. Whoa. I was just hold a second. Stand down, please, Doga.
But, Your Majesty, he threatened you.
No one is threatening me. It was a joke. Doga gave a reluctant grunt. Don't come in again unless you hear me scream. Doga grunted again. Then he shrugged back to the entrance. He looked downtrodden after being told off. It was kind of cute. My apologies. He's very rigid. I got a little carried away with that bit. Personally, I like when you joke around. This place doesn't keep a fool. Very funny, Rudius thought. I do always like this kind of stuff. I bet Ariel just has to keep strict with everything. She's trying to keep things flowing. Again, she has a lot of issues with, yes, it's not like she's got her position secured at this point. There's still going to be people that want to take her down. And even when she gets to the point where the kingdom itself is stable, there's still going to be people coming after her. People from the outside. And yeah, still people within the kingdom itself that are going to want to take her down. Probably doesn't have much fun at this point. Unless she just spends all day on that communication tablet writing to Orsted inappropriate things. I could totally see that. I could see that. I want a side chapter, sexting with the dragon god. Let's call it sexting with the dragon god. And it's just an entire chapter of Ariel alone in her bed chambers, just writing the most inappropriate things on that tablet, and Orsted responding to it. So, Orsted, what are you wearing?
I'm wearing a coat right now. What do you want? Is there something going on over there? Should I come over?
Oh, yes. I'm alone right now, and I'm in need of some care.
I'll be right there.
No, I'm just joking. I didn't mean that. It's the stupidest crap.
I'm wearing a coat. What are you wearing? Do you have protective coat? Do you need some protective armor? I have some magic underwear if you need them.
Oh, that sounds pleasant. Are they lacy? Oh my god, I can make a whole segment on this. Okay, shut up, Andrew. Move on. Very funniest, Rias thought. He'll train up a clown and bring them next time. One good for protection and laughs. One that would drag enemies into the sewers and dispose of them. I wonder what the actual Japanese is right here. There's probably a joke right here in the Japanese, but I'm assuming this is referencing it. But I don't know that it was that popular in Japan, was it? I don't think so. This has got to be a different joke. I mean, this could be I'm thinking 1,000 different possibilities for a Japanese character like this. What were you talking about? 3 countries invading the King Dragon Realm's vassal state. Okay, what about them? She spoke like it was so obvious that she didn't have to say it outright. But then it was. Orsted had received reports of 3 countries being supported behind the scenes in their invasion by none other than the Astra Kingdom. The report to Orsted basically read to the effect of, hey, I want to use these 3 countries to invade a vassal state of the King Dragon Realm. That cool? I'm gonna invade. That cool? I mean, that's alright, dude. I mean, you don't care, right? I mean, you killed their king. It ain't gonna be a problem, right? Only the Austria kingdom wasn't interested in conquering the vassal state or expanding the territory. The point was to wear down the King Dragon realm. Also, the reason prices were rising in the King Dragon realm was thanks to the Austria kingdom, ever so slightly increasing the tax on imports and traded goods. Very, very interesting that this is something that she's doing right now. It kind of makes me wonder if she's trying to bolster her opinion of herself. Because, again, let's face it, Austria Kingdom is not in like a state like the King Dragon Realm, but there is a change in leadership that is happening right now between those two nations. Or not between, but each one of them is having a change of guard. Now, granted, Ariel has been in the leadership of the Austria Kingdom for a while now. Whereas this whole situation with King Dragon Realm this is still happening. Again, just got the wind knocked out of them. They're still trying to get back on their feet. This obviously makes me believe that she is trying to either create conflict between the King Dragon Realm and these other nations, just backing them up so they fight each other until one of them just gets super weakened down and they can come in and invade. I just didn't really ever consider that Ariel's mindset was to eventually attack the King Dragon Realm. Which again, still technically makes sense to the very initial meeting of Ariel. With Derek Redback, his whole statement is that these other nations are getting stronger. And so she probably knows by looking into reports, he was right. The King Dragon Realm is getting really strong. And just based on what we just, witnessed with Rudius in the King Dragon Realm, they got some really talented people there. And Shaghal is doing some incredible stuff with the army. They're eventually going to get to the point where they're strong enough. And yeah, the assumption here is that the King Dragon Realm wanted to eventually come up there and destroy the Austria Kingdom, take over the Austria Kingdom. There's very few nations that wouldn't just love to have full world domination. It would be an eventuality that would happen, is there's going to be some sort of conflict happening. And so I'm thinking that Ariel is trying to at least badger them, keep badgering them, keep causing conflict, let them fight each other, keep poking that bear. Ariel is seemingly a lot more bold than I thought she would be. Military maneuvers was like the last... I don't recall Ariel ever talking about military maneuvers and what she plans on with other nations. But again, it was a concern that Derek Redback was bringing up to her. And so she's probably, knowing that, is probably going to put up measures or countermeasures or some sort of method to protect her nation. Until they can fix the whole situation with how bad their training is for their people. Now, the weaknesses of their military could be kept strictly to who's leading or commanding each group. Not so much that their training itself is bad, just that their command is bad, or weaker than what it could be. But again, that goes back to the whole thing with Zenoba. It's not to say that these noblemen are not going to have knowledge of military maneuvers. If anything, they're probably going to be a lot more knowledgeable than your commoner. But yes, between each of the nobles, that's the thing that you really want to question there. Which again, the King Dragon Realm is actually taking advantage of. Would you mind stopping the invasion? It would help me with some negotiations with the King Dragon Realm. Of course. She picked up a pen and scribbled something on a piece of paper. She then sealed it with a stamp and handed it to Rudius. Give this to Luke, and it should end the invasion a few days later. Use it whenever you feel like it. Ha ha ha. Rudius had a bargaining chip now. Friendships were important, but so is power. Oh right, the other thing was, I was wondering if you let me use the Austrian embassy in the King Dragon Realm. Predictably, it turns out some people don't respect the right hand of the Dragon God. Permission granted. I'll see that it's arranged. Ariel clapped her hands again, and a lady in waiting from earlier came in. Ariel whispered in her ear before she nodded and left. The embassy has everything on hand, but please let the ambassador know if you need anything. Thank you for all this. Not at all. Ariel was looking doe-eyed. It was sexy. He didn't like it. Is this why you raised me to this position? No, I mean, that's what Sir Orsted wanted, but I just wanted to make Sylphie happy. I ought to thank Sylphie then. I think we are both in debt to Sylphie forever, aren't we? The two of them chuckled together. It was fun talking to Ariel like they were plotting something dastardly. They could do basically anything. It's so bad. Such a bad mindset there. They get a little more into it in a minute, though, but it is very, very kind of fascinating having him come in here talking to Ariel like this. Again, the assumption here is that this whole thing with her basically backing these three countries that are attacking this vassal state, this probably took a lot of plotting and putting together. She's literally asking these individual countries, hey, work with us. I will give you supplies. I will give you backing. Start attacking that vassal state. Now, there's probably a lot to this whole situation. It's not that simple. There are probably, a lot of talks about like, hey, are you looking to expand? Yeah, we've been wanting to attack this one vassal state, but we don't have the resources. And there's a lot of conversation as to figuring out what they want, if they want to expand the territory. Are they looking for more land? Have they always been? I mean, that was like the whole situation with Sharon initially. Is that whole mindset that, yeah, these people, when he was talking to that general, no, it was actually somebody with the royalty. Why are you doing this? Are you a disciple of the man god? No, we were just always wanted that. We've always been waiting to do this. Now we just finally got our opportunity to do it. Again, a lot of especially with the conflict zone and whatnot, they're always looking to expand. So it's simply trying to figure that out. But I digress. Getting into that whole process, it probably took a lot of time to put all of this together and to orchestrate all this stuff. And now they're harassing the northern areas of the King Dragon Realm. And to simply Rias walks in the room and says, "Can you stop that?" Sure, scribble, scribble. Give this a Luke and it'll stop within a couple days. What? It's that simple? Like, what's on that note? Is the note just strictly saying, cease this right now until further notice or something like that? And that's going to be simply, that's all it takes? Now, granted, it would probably be easy for them to stop, because I think what they kind of implied earlier is that they got pushed back to the border, but they're still doing it. So they're already back to their border. So it's as simple as kind of like hold the line. Simply just saying hold the line. Now, if they had already invaded and they were in the King Dragon Realm, or at least in one of those vassal state areas, yes, technically it's a little more difficult to say, hey, just pull back your men. Shrug, just pull back your men. But still very curious that with this situation, she has enough power that she could simply say, stop. And it just stops. Or I'm going to pull the backing that I have in you if you don't stop right now. Or again, I probably assume it's probably more of a cease for now. Hold the line. Don't proceed any further for now. I have somebody behind the scenes working on something else. But still, like, having that power to walk in this room, talk to Ariel, like that, is done. Oh yeah, and I also need your MC. Done. Like, anything you need. Again, that technically makes sense, again, because, and there's going to be a little bit more here in a minute, whether it's a fear or duty concept, Orsted put her in that position. Whatever you, working for Orsted, needs, I'll do it. It's kind of scary, and like even joking about the idea before, like, it's fun being here talking about this stuff. It's like we're plotting something dastardly. It's so much fun talking to Ariel. We can basically do anything. It's like, that's kind of scary. I don't know that I trust Rudy. I kind of trust Ariel, but I don't really trust Rudy as having that power. I'm sorry about Dogo before, by the way. Oh, Mr. Doorkeeper? He's a very reliable doorkeeper, but he's a little inflexible. Forgive him this time. I'm sure he'll be more careful in the future. Nah, not at all. I can't fault a young person who's dedicated to his job. Please don't fire him or anything for this. Wouldn't dream of it. Right then, I wouldn't be proper to linger around in the bedroom of an unmarried woman, so I'll be on my way. Goodness, surely you wouldn't appear without warning in a lady's room, make demands of her, and then simply wander off. I'm a perfect gentleman. Sylvie doesn't want to have to be ashamed of her husband. You can at least give me a rundown of the situation. Oh, right. Yeah, I guess I should probably tell you why I just asked you to stop an entire conflict. Reese sent her news of what happened in Millis via contact tablet, and some things were better said in person, as he wrote himself. He gave her a rundown of what has happened since then. In conclusion, it looks like I'm going to have to fight geese. I'm gathering my forces now. I see. I'm presently gathering my own forces as well. When the time comes, I'll be happy to lend them to you. What are you gathering forces for? I could be murdered in my bed at any time, so I'm building a private army. I'm sure as far as Sir Orsted is concerned, the stronger his allies, the better. No argument there. Yeah, this is very interesting, definitely considering what happens when he goes to leave this room. He does meet a lot of people. It seems to imply anybody that has possibly the gold armor is these people within her private army. And that is honestly a sad aspect of the position that Ariel's in, and it makes perfect sense. I would probably do the exact same thing as Ariel. You get in that position, you start to hire some very powerful people and offer them everything. As long as I'm safe, you will be given everything, whatever you want, as long as I am safe. But of course, there is the other side of that, is who can you really trust? That they're going to actually do that and actually protect you, or will they, at some point, given a better offer or something, or possibly somebody takes their family prisoner or whatever and forces them to turn on Ariel. But again, I would probably be doing the same thing as her, because even though she is leading the Astra Kingdom, she doesn't control everybody. And certain groups within Astra could turn against her. So she needs her own private army, not the Astra army, to protect her. She was really good at this. Ever since becoming queen, she'd taken to her duties like a fish to water. She didn't need guidance. She knew what she wanted, and she was always moving towards it. Her strides were a lot longer than Rudius's. Becoming queen wasn't her final goal. There was plenty left on her bucket list. She wouldn't run out of goals until the day she died, nor stop striving to achieve them. Rudius could learn something from her. You're a bit scary, Ariel. Oh dear, truly? I feel like if you ever saw me at my weakest, you'd betray us. You wound me, if after all that I owe you. The very idea. If you're worried, though, I could tell you one of my weaknesses. What? No. There's no need to go that far. Come on, Rudy. What the hell, dude? Every Ariel fan is like, no, say it. I was just reminded that you're always on the hunt for the advantage, that's all. I'm also a woman that acts on her feelings, she said, pouting. Then, as though something occurred to her, she pressed her finger to her lips. But there's an entertaining thought. What? Well, if I had a child, I could name him Rudius Jr. Wouldn't that be fun? She's so bad. She's so bad. What? Please don't. That would be suspicious. Reese could imagine Sylphie looking at him with cold eyes. He could brush it off as a joke, but quietly naming a child after him was declaring it his. It wouldn't matter how much he insisted they weren't involved. Everyone would draw their own mistaken conclusions. It wasn't funny at all. An epic betrayal. Not of Orsted, but of Rudius and Sylphie. I've always got a kick out of the fact that there's like this idea that Sylphie cannot accept Ariel or Nanahoshi. Like, those are the two no-nos. Like, Rudius, I accept everything, but still at this point, in Volume 21, we're still talking about the idea that Ariel is off limits. It's just so goofy. Which, yes, when I was thinking about this whole moment right here, and it kind of occurred to me, I'm like, God, what the hell happened to Nanahoshi? Nanahoshi just disappeared from the story. Like, at Volume 22, Refugion's like, I don't care about Nanahoshi no more. I don't want to talk about Nanahoshi no more. Actually, I was talking about betraying Sir Orsted, not just me. You know, I was there when the water god Rhaeda was killed. Do you really think that I'd betray you after that terrifying experience? Reese recalled the death of the water god Rhaeda. Ariel was right. It was terrifying. Everyone was pinned down, even Petagus. Orsted showed up, fended off all of her attacks, and knocked her out with a single knife hand strike. He didn't do it because it favored his strength, or because it was his most well-known technique. He killed her that way because it was convenient. If Reese was a figure of note, the thought of meeting a similar fate would make his blood run cold. Death could come at any moment, no matter who tried to protect you. It was like a horror movie. Yeah, that's an interesting thought there. Don't step out of line. Keep to what Orsted wants, because I don't want to end up like that. I don't want to end up like that. It is almost the thought of the unstoppable threat. This kind of drill that's coming towards you, but you're locked down, and you're just watching it slowly come to you. It's inevitability. Don't step out of line. I don't genuinely think that you'd betray us. Just in case, though, watch out for anyone showing up, saying that they received advice in a dream. I will, but you needn't be concerned about me. I've really come to appreciate just how much this throne is worth. Doesn't that mean I should worry if it looks like you might lose it? I'm offering my favors to the servant of the big, scary dragon god for that very reason. We'll gladly take whatever you've got. She chuckled. I'm counting on you to help me cling pathetically to my throne, should it come to that, okay? Very good point. Rudius is like, I don't genuinely believe that you betray us. And I agree with Rudius, like this idea of like, she would not be in that position if it weren't for Orsted. What Rudius and Orsted did for her, she would not have obtained that. With all that was bearing down on her with the man god, she would not have pulled it off. I think normally without the man god being involved, probably been able to pull it off. But with everything basically boring down upon her, I don't think she would pull it off without the help of Rudius and Orsted. And Edis and everybody else. But yes, good point here. Yeah, if you have anybody that shows up talking about some dream, you know, anybody that talks about this man god, yeah, run for the hills. But good point here. I've come to appreciate how much this throne is worth. Isn't that a bad thing? Because that means that, yes, if somebody comes to you and says they're the man god, I'm going to take the throne from you unless you do this against Orsted. Basically, she's showing value within the throne, not in Orsted or Rudius. This is the most important thing to me. So isn't that a dangerous thing? Because if you get too caught up in that and losing it, you might turn against us for the sake of retaining it. But almost the way that she's saying it right here, I'm pathetic on my own. I need you to help me keep it. Help me cling pathetically to the throne. It's a pretty interesting statement there. I'm doing all this stuff for the big scary dragon god. That's why I didn't hesitate to write down that note and hand it to you. That's why I didn't hesitate to call the maid, lady-in-waiting and whisper in her ear for the embassy. That's why I'm giving all this stuff to you without question. Help me cling to this throne. It's still technically showing a little bit of her own weakness there. And I think that will stay there until she manages to create her own private army that she feels comfortable with. But that also creates that door to creep open that eventually could she build up enough of a private army that she won't be afraid of Orsted or Rudius. I doubt it. I doubt it. Rudius could lend a hand, although, according to Orsted, Ariel's regime would last until Ariel died. Yeah, but again, a lot of things have changed, Rudius, from what Orsted has seen. Speaking of clinging, the other day, Roxy's daughter, Lada, they chat about everyday stuff for about an hour. Then Rudius left the Queen's chambers. He stepped out to find himself face to face with several knights. Doga, plus 3 others. They were standing there as if they were waiting for him. It spooked him a little bit. He thought he'd be dragged to the bowels of the castle and shaken down. They all looked seriously intimidating. The scariest looking one was someone that Rudius knew well, though, which changed everything. It's been so long. It has been so long. It was literally like back when they left. Yeah, it was when they left Asra after helping Ariel. It's like I think that was the last time that we actually had Ghislaine in a chapter. They've mentioned her and whatnot, but yeah. Been a while, Ghislaine. Yeah, she nodded solemnly, as she always did. But you could tell by the way that her tail wagged that she was pleased to see him. Yeah. Wag, wag, wag. So cute. I love it. She wore golden armor, but hers was light. It only covered crucial spots. Bare minimum. Reese thought that it looked bad. The gold of the armor complemented her brown skin beautifully. She looked tough as hell, giving her major S-tier character vibes. That's the one with the really low gotcha rates. Sorry, guess I kept you waiting. I'll be on my way. As he tried to leave, she grabbed him by the hair. What the heck? Wait, was there something else you needed? Is Edis well? Can you imagine her otherwise? No. Yes, she's doing great. Same as always. Good. Always so short for words. They had lots to catch up on, but Reese assumed Ghislaine was on duty and there for an emergency. As much as I'd like to catch up, I gotta get going. I'm sure you're busy too. No. Wait. Luke told me that you would be here. Oh, you got business with me? What is it? Nothing serious. He said he wanted to see you. Reese looked to the other 2 ordinary middle-aged men. That sucks. There was like a side of me like they were like, Ghislaine wants to see you. Like, talk to Ghislaine for a little bit. But yeah, I can see him assuming that they were all there waiting for their turn to go see Ariel about something important. But like, now that you've established that, talk with her for a little bit. Poor Ghislaine. One was shorter, blonde hair flecked with white. The other, unusually black hair. I'm sorry, in Japanese writing and anime, that always sticks out like a sore thumb. We'll see, though. Reese placed both of them in their late 40s, perhaps 50s. They both carried themselves with a dignified air of seasoned warriors. The blonde one stepped forward. 'Tis an honor to meet you. My name is Sylvester Ifrit. I defend the castle as captain of the palace guards and place myself at your service. Interesting. Now, again, if these people are like this private army that she's putting together, it makes sense that they're going to thus establish themselves as under Rudius because, again, this depends on what Ariel has told them. There's a good chance that Ariel, for her private army, has established with them, I am working for Orsted, and thus Rudius is above me. Like, Rudius even said when he first, or at least in his mind was saying that when he first came here, hey, I'm the boss of her, and she's the boss of you. I'm Reese Greyrat, a friend of the Queen. Through Her Majesty's benefits, it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Being captain of the Palace Guard, that made him the most important knight of the Kingdom of Asura. That explained the shiny gold armor, even if all of them were wearing it. You're too modest. I'm here that you're an old friend of Her Majesty's. In truth, it's my wife that's an old friend. Lady Sophiette, I believe. Such an ethereal and delicate beauty, combined with unyielding strength. Just so, you know her well. Anyways, it's all thanks to my wife that I'm able to impose on Her Majesty. You make claims as much, but I am told that you played a leading role in deciding the struggle for the throne. That made it sound as though there had been a fair fight between all the different castles, and they came out on top. I was only acting on my boss's orders. The one who really ought to have credit is my master, the dragon god Orsted. I see. You are as loyal as ever. Reese wasn't sure if he can call it loyalty. He doubted it, to be honest. Still, with little things like this, he figured he can grow Orsted's authority. Any chance he can have to kind of bolster up Boss a little bit? Nah, man, it's all Boss. Boss did it. Boss did it. Which, yes, technically makes sense because Reese, over the last few chapters, has been talking about this idea that saying that he's the right hand of the dragon god isn't giving him much authority. So if he can kind of bolster how much people enjoy that, and yes, possibly recruit some people, that's big. Had it not been for you, I would never have been promoted this far. Yeah? At the end of the day, I'm the son of poor, middle-ranked nobles, and nothing more. Thanks to this position, however, I've been able to even put my youngest son through school. I'm glad to hear it. Reese assumed that he was from one of Asura's most important noble families. Ariel believed in meritocracy and had been elevating talent. This guy was one of their hires. But if he was a captain, that made Reese wonder how powerful he was. He may be a useful friend to make. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Again, because we're establishing this idea here that she's trying to change things up. Not that she's trying to copy what the King Dragon Realm is doing, but probably doing something similar there where they're going to start bringing people up. It's really more of an idea of trying to get id of these old traditions that are stagnating things. It's really what it is. It's not really copying the King Dragon Realm. It's just doing something that's logical here. Bringing up that talent. Feel free to call me if you ever need some advice with your son. Sorry? Oh, You're just as funny as they say. No fear there. My boy's talented, just like his father. Talented people still have their own worries and run into trouble. True. I'll bear that in mind. Ruiz turned to the next guy. And, you are? The black-haired man met Ruiz's eyes and let out a "huh" of laughter. Ruiz laughed too. And you are? Ha! Ha ha ha. Okay. This kind of chemistry. All right. We got like two Subarus laughing with each other. Ruiz was a firm believer in a smile as a first step to good communication. Smiles will save the world. He hasn't brought that up in a long time. It's been so long. Volume 9 or 10? It would have been about the time where Ruiz finally got everything situated with Sylphie. I think back then when he finally got over his depression, I think he brought this up at some point. But yeah, he hasn't brought that up in a long time. It's an honor to meet you. My name is Rudius Greyrat. The man stared and gave Rudius a full look over. He walked around to look Rudius from behind too. He had an air of someone sizing up a rare animal. It felt very familiar. Yes, just like Kishirika. Which meant this guy probably had a demon eye. What? Nothing. It's very rare that I get a look at a servant of the esteemed dragon god. That's all. It's true there's not many of us. I imagine so. He talked like someone who'd met Orsa before. By the way, your name was... Oh, how rude of me. He froze and clamped his hand over his mouth. He let out another brisk bark of laughter and shot a sidelong glance. I'm afraid it's not yet time for you to know my name. Unlike before, his voice was now unnecessarily dramatic. You shall know when the time is right. My name, my identity. With that, the black-haired middle-aged man turned and strode away. There was even something about how he walked that looked like amateur theatrics. Ghislaine looked troubled. What is his deal? It was his idea. He wanted to meet you. Reese wondered if that guy never grew out of his edgy teen phase. Damn it, Shandel. Reese is my old teacher, you tool. So his name was Shandel. According to Sylvester, it was Shandel von Grandier. He was the captain of the Austrian Golden Knights. Reese had no idea what his deal was, but Reese had a funny feeling that he'd run into him again. They could make their first introduction the second time they met. And that is chapter 4. Shandel, huh? Shandel, huh? I'm sorry, the unusually black hair thing really stood out to me. And I guess it's because I just came off of like having that question mark about like them still bringing up the idea that Sylphie is not okay with the idea of him getting with Ariel or with Nanahoshi. Maybe having Nanahoshi still fresh in the mind, considering the idea of like, wow, we haven't touched her story in forever. Maybe it kind of nudged me towards that direction of kind of considering, is this possibly the boyfriend that Nanahoshi is still looking for? I don't know. Now, obviously, why I'm kind of implying that it could be Nanahoshi's boyfriend or whatever from the previous world is more on the idea of the black hair. In a lot of cases, the black hair is usually an indication of Japanese or whatever. So the fact that Rudius doesn't really kind of go into that thought process is odd, but he at least is kind of pointing out once again, this is kind of a oddly colored hair for this world or whatever. But yes, that technically does lead it into the idea of a demon as well. He even goes out of his way to mention the idea that it feels a lot like Kishirika. Like he's eyeing him up or whatever like Kishirika. Possibility that he has a demon eye and then he's using the demon eye to look at me. But again, to the theory of something being connected to the boyfriend, the reason why I say that is, again, the black hair. We haven't talked about that guy in a long time. The assumption is that he might be possibly just dead or whatever, and that still could be a possibility there. Why he would be 40 years old or whatever could be the idea that he was brought there to that world with his body, but he doesn't have that prevention of himself aging like Nanahoshi does, so he has been growing up in this new world, which kind of would put it in that time frame possibly, that yes, if he was like, 16 or 17, 18 when he was in the previous world, he gets transported to this world, possibly at the same time that Rudius was put into the body of this child and born in this world. She's stuck in this kind of chamber, not aging or whatever. He's aging during that time, could possibly get around that age period. Again, plusing like 20 years or so, 22 years, I think at this point, 22 on top of that. It could be in around that range. Anyways, yes, the other thing here is that he could possibly just be connected somehow to Kishirika. Maybe some kind of half demon blood or something like that, possibly in that area there. Could be possibly somebody very powerful. Again, being in that position, again, gathering people that are very strong for her private army, he could be extremely powerful. Chandler von Grandier, I don't think we've seen that name before, so that's a curious question mark there as well. There is the other question mark here that he could possibly be, because he seems kind of a little bit odd, typically people of the North God style are kind of odd. I kind of wonder if there's a possibility that he could be the North God, and this could be the person that Reese is kind of looking for. He just doesn't realize it's him. It is interesting that when we were talking about the North God, Orsted never mentioned the name of the possible North Gods or where he might be. And maybe that could have been for a reason to avoid Rudeus knowing, oh, wow, that's this Chandra guy. So that's my theories. It could possibly be Nanahoshi's boyfriend. It could possibly be somebody related to Kishirika, just because of that oddness there that Reese is kind of pointing out. Or it could be the North God. We'll see, though. I could see the whole idea of it possibly being the North God. It makes sense in the idea that Ariel would have tracked him down or something like that and offered him something big in order for him to stick around, which technically does make sense because Orsted said the possibility locations he could be is like the Beggar Continent. He was also at some time in the conflict zone. Again, that makes sense, the idea that if she's getting involved with them, that she would have met him that way if he was in that area. I'm very interested at this point what he's going to use this information for, because again, when he talked to Ariel and got her to sign up this little note, she had it to him as a tool. That's the very interesting thing. Give this to Luke and it should end the invasion a few days later. Use it whenever you feel like. That's the interesting thing. She's handing him a stop the war ticket. Not saying, I will talk to Luke and have it done. Use this whenever you like. It's almost like she's handing it to him as a bargaining tool. That's very curious. That makes me wonder if Rudeus is going to immediately take that and give to Luke to stop everything, or if he's going to take it and then go to the King Dragon Realm and say, I can stop this right now. I have connections to stop this right now. I don't think that he'll say, it's the Astra Kingdom, I have connections with the Astra Kingdom. Just simply saying, I have connections and I can make it stop really quickly. Do you want me? But the danger that comes from that is that it could make him an enemy of the King Dragon Realm. By stating that he can stop it, that implies that he is somehow involved. So I'll be curious if Reese is going to use it as a bargaining tool to bolster up Benedict, or just possibly stop it right off the bat in order to take off that pressure that is creating. Because again, this whole segment right here opened up with the idea of the bully and getting rid of that stress that is causing the bully to bully the victim, which again in this case is Benedict. So again, that's kind of a curious question mark there. I almost feel like he's probably going to use it as a bargaining tool to make Benedict look good. Because if he just stops it, it just makes everything go away, and then there's no benefit gained besides that tension in the kingdom reducing a little bit. Again, I think it's very telling based on the idea that it's not simply, she goes, I'll talk to Luke, we'll stop it. It's here, use it whenever you feel like it. That makes me believe that Reese is going to hold on to it and use it as a bargaining chip. So my assumption right now is that yes, he can return back to the King Dragon Realm, and I think he's going to set up camp in the Austrian embassy. I think there's a good possibility that he might make the Austria Kingdom look like they're stopping the war. Thus, that will take a lot of that question mark off of him. And yes, not make it look like the Austria Kingdom is blatantly doing this. Thus, technically being a benefit to Ariel. Basically not to put a spotlight on Austria, which he could technically do right now, because again, Ariel is doing it. Not that she's forcing these other countries. They're doing it because they want to do it. They're just getting her backing. So I think there's a possibility that he'll set up camp in the embassy. He'll make it look like through the power of Asra, he's got strength and connections to put a stop to the conflict. And he might, again, put Benedict as being the one that is putting this all together because he is connected to Benedict. Not that Benedict is doing it, but because Benedict has these connections, she's through proxy pulling this off. That she has power through Rudeus, that he is backing her. And that might require him to specifically communicate to Chagall too. I think Chagall might end up being Rudeus's connection to the royalty. If he wants to talk to somebody big there, he's probably gonna have to do it through Chagall. Because again, he's pretty much the king. Like, if everybody's looking at somebody with power, it's probably through Chagall. Yes, the kingdom itself has an established leader, and it's not Chagall. But again, they've established this idea that the King Dragon Realm is where it's at now because of Chagall. So again, I think that he's going to be the foot in. All this stuff seems pretty straightforward with the other kingdoms invading, the stress that it's creating, the conflict that it's creating. All that stuff is pretty straightforward. The still remaining question mark is, for me, through these two chapters, is what the hell is Millis doing? What is Millis doing? And possibly, again, who is Millis communicating to? Who is possibly using or working with Millis? That's the massive question mark. And again, I do acknowledge that This is the Mills Knight Order being the Mills Knight Order. Let's be perfectly honest. Again, they are going to be uppity. They're going to be causing problems in different nations. A lot of people are overlooking it because of the Mills faith itself and not wanting to, work against them. Again, a lot of these nations have the Mills faith within them. A lot of these people hold this faith. And again, a lot of nobles are in this faith, but they get away with things. They talked about that before. But again, my question mark is going to be is if possibly somebody in power that wants control while the King Dragon Realm is recovering from a massive blow is utilizing them to cause conflict within the kingdom itself and possibly cause a coup. We'll see. That's it's chapter 3 and 4. I hope you guys enjoyed this Mushoku Mondays. As always, like I said before, I didn't plan on going into chapter 5 this Mushoku Monday, even though this might be a shorter Mushoku Monday than normal, just because Chapter 5 is long. Chapter 5 is long. I haven't looked at it yet. I've been informed there's 3 images in it, so it makes me wonder if there's something really big in Chapter 5. So we will have to wait and see next week. I'm looking forward to reading it, whatever it is, or at least seeing 3 cool pictures. If there's, again, 3 pictures. I was told there's 3 pictures. I could be lied to. But that is it. That is it for this Mushoku Monday. As always, I thank you guys so much for dropping by for the premiere. Hey, chat. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys had a great Mushoku Monday. Hope you have a great rest of your Monday. I appreciate the kind words. Appreciate everybody hitting the like button. Hit that like button if you didn't hit the like button. Hit it. It's free. Hit it. It supports the channel. Additionally, greatly appreciate everybody that supports the channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that stuff. It means a great deal to me. And until the next Mushoku Monday, y'all take care. And 25 will be next. It's true there aren't all that many of us. I wonder if you let me use the Asuran. I can't say Asuran Embassy. Asuran Embassy. Two such esteemed I can't say esteem with his voice. By gosh.